off by actually saying to Jemima, you can breathe now. It's okay. The film is out there. People have seen it. They are appreciating it. How much does this love for What's Love Got to Do with it mean to you? As this film so personal to you?
Good evening, everyone. It's lovely to see you here in Birmingham. It's been particularly important to me to have received such amazing love and feedback from the kind of South Asian community and my Pakistani friends, and so that's been both heartwarming and a relief. But it's not out yet. Don't say it's out yet. It's out on the 24th, and I'm still terrified until after
I think
that.
from the smiles on the faces in this room, we're in safe hands at the moment. Sajjan, for you, this is your first international film. This is your first, well, actually, let me correct that. This is your first film in an English language. You have done an international film before. To see the reaction you've got, to see the love after the premiere on Monday night as well, are you kind of breathing a sigh of relief, or how are you feeling?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for
Showing us up, Sajjan, because we should have come in saying Assalamu alaikum. Thanks a lot.
Honestly, the response was amazing. I'm overwhelmed. And I mean, of course, for me, it was like a dream come true. And especially, you know, I'm here and representing not just myself, but my country as well. So it was a lot of pressure, trust me. But, you know, I'm thankful to, can you guys hear me? Because I think I sound really beautiful.
It suddenly went off.
You can, there we go. We can all share mics here.
Oh, okay. And I would like to thank Jemima for choosing me for this character, and of course my agent Hamid for really for pushing me for this to do this project. I mean, I just feel honored. I feel honored, and I am grateful for every second, every moment.
Jemima, for you, I think one of the most notable things about this movie is that it feels like a really authentic British Asian experience. That was probably the first thing I thought when I watched it, was that this feels like somebody's lived experience, whether they are British or Asian, whether they are Pakistani or not from Pakistan even. How was the writing process of this film? How did you make sure that those cultural nuances were authentic? How did you make sure that this didn't feel like almost somebody faking it?
Well, thank you very much for saying that. I hope you guys agree. Look, I don't, first of all, I'm not sure there's just one British Asian experience, but and actually even in Pakistan, obviously there's so many different backgrounds and ethnicities and, you know, languages. I could only reflect on what I had seen, which was a very specific. I mean, obviously it's not based on real life because that isn't my story, but it's inspired by my 10 years living in Pakistan, and I lived in a pretty conservative family who are quite similar to the Khans. And I lived in a joint family household with, you know, 20 of my ex-husband's, his sisters, their children, his father, the sister's husband, and I lived there for most of the time that I was in Pakistan before we moved to Islamabad. And so I was reflecting that particular, the characters in the film and the anecdotes in the film, the lines in the film are mostly derived from people that I've met or experience that I've had. But that is a very specific family. They're Pathans. They're possibly, I guess Pathan culture is slightly more, a little more conservative. So ours was the only non-arranged marriage in his entire family history. Brackets and the only divorce. Yeah.
What some people might not know here is that you were also on something called the Arranged Marriage Committee while you were there in Pakistan.
Oh no, it wasn't a formal committee or anything. I don't want to
for the purposes of entertainment of this story, it sounds better.
No, but I got very over-involved. I became completely megalomaniacal after. By the time I was back, I thought I could arrange anyone's marriage. I'm still at it today. I just introduced two British Pakistani friends of mine, and I was like, I think you'd be good. I think you should get married. And they've just been for dinner, and I'm like, Has he proposed? Like, what's happening?
There we go. And actually, those experiences of arranged marriage helped you set up the script for this, right? Helped you kind of portray arranged marriage in a more positive light.
Yeah, look, I think that there is a tendency, if you haven't seen arranged marriages up close in your own family, or I lived around. It's hard to kind of fake it. If you're in a house with 5 people who've had arranged marriages and who are arranging marriages for their kids, you see it pretty up close. We were living together, and I think that experience really confounded maybe even some sort of prejudice that I had going into Pakistan, not really knowing. For me, arranged marriage, a bit like the character in the film, was an alien concept, and one that maybe didn't even have a place in the modern world. And I really reversed that view by the time I'd spent 10 years seeing a number of really successful arranged marriage, by which I mean the ones based on consent and, what always was known in that family as assisted marriage, which is basically introductions. And why would you trust an algorithm more than you would trust maybe the people who know you and love you best? It's all a risk.
Absolutely. Sajal, for you, the scene that I would like you to talk to the audience about is the scene that I think you are the absolute scene stealer of, which is after the wedding, the dance where you let loose. If you watch Sajal in dramas, you will know that Sajal has never performed on screen the way you perform in that dance just there. Tell us a little bit about how that scene came about, how you kind of gave us that performance, because I really do think it's one of the highlights of the movie.
Well, I mean, I'm an actor. That's what my job is.
True.
But, of course, I was very scared because, I had to kind of bring that wildness and that craziness. And as an actor, I never really got the chance to kind of be open that way and just be crazy on Pakistani television. But thanks to Jemima that she kind of wrote that beautiful part.
Brought out your wild side.
Exactly. So, I think I've told this before as well to so many people, but when I asked Shekhar sir that, okay, so now this is the time where I'm gonna dance now, so, how crazy you want me to go? He said, well, as crazy and as wild as you can go. I said, well, you don't know my potential. That's what I was thinking, man. You don't know what's gonna happen. So, this is how, and then there was this part when I had to dance with Emma Thompson. And you all know that she's a legend, man. Yeah. She's so good. She's
terrific
so good
in this movie.
And she made me feel so comfortable. Not for a second. I thought, initially, of course, I was scared when she was right in front of me. She's tall, and I was just, but I'm really happy that I made her dance to our tunes, to our Bhangra.
Let's just say special request with Jemima on stage. Please release the soundtrack in full because we are waiting for the full soundtrack. Okay, there we go.
No, well,
it's coming.
The original, the wedding song is released now, which is with Rahat Fateh Ali Khan singing on it with Lily James, which is quite a combination, and was produced by Naughty Boy and Nitin Sawhney. But the soundtrack comes out at the same time as the film and will be released. I love it. I'm obsessed by the soundtrack. I think he did such a good job, Nitin.
I have to ask you, Sajal just mentioned Emma there. At what point in putting this film together did you think, this is too good to be true? Shekhar Kapoor directing it, Emma Thompson, Shabana Azmi, Lily James, Shahzad Latif, Sajal Ali, Asim Chowdhury. At what point did you be like, this is too good?
Yeah, it was. I do feel very, very lucky, and I'm very grateful, and kind of surprised. Yeah, but I couldn't actually believe it was happening even on the premiere on Monday night. I just couldn't believe, because it might seem like it all comes together easily in film, but this has been 12 years in the making. I started writing it maybe even longer than 12 years ago, and it's taken a really long time, and so it's a long drawn out process, but very much worth it in the end.
And I think it's important for the audience to know, and I think this will be my final question before we open it out to some of you, so start thinking of your questions, make them good. This was shot during the peak of the pandemic. This was shot during lockdown when you had to be in COVID bubbles, where you weren't allowed to mix freely. What were the kind of shooting constraints on this film? Because actually, it looks effortless on screen for both of you, actually.
Do you want to? Shall I answer? Or
I
do you
think
want-
you should.
So yeah,
You were
COVID was-
controlling everything because everything was
Truly.
in your hand. I was locked for like 15 days in my hotel room, so
Yeah. It was, I mean, it was during that particularly brutal stage. It was the second lockdown in the January, which was the kind of darkest, bleakest moment, I think, of the whole COVID pandemic. And so a lot, it was challenging. We had to shut down once because of a COVID outbreak on set. We had to suspend, we were meant to, we were always planning to film abroad, and we couldn't take the cast to Pakistan, and so we had to delay. We delayed the filming by 6 months, hoping that we would, at the end of 6 months, by September, things would have opened up, and of course they hadn't, not for travel anyway. And so in the end, like some of those scenes, we did shoot in Pakistan, but it was we couldn't take the whole team there, and I was very lucky that I called on the help of a friend who you probably know, Sharmeen Obey-Chinoy, who's a brilliant
Oscar winner.
two-time Oscar winner.
Two-time Oscar winner, yes.
And I called her and I said, you've got to help. You've got to make Lahore look beautiful, and you need to film it for us, and you need to do it tomorrow virtually. And she rose to the challenge, and I told her which were my favourite architecture, my favourite architecture of Lahore, and which roads to go down and which bits I loved. And because I really wanted people to see maybe a Lahore and a Pakistan that we're not quite so familiar with. I think in this country we're used to seeing Pakistan as kind of a scary place on the news and stuff. So I wanted to show the beautiful bits, and a lot of people have come away saying we really want to visit Pakistan, the music and the culture and the dancing and the colour and the architecture, and so I like being the kind of tour guide.
It's a good tour guide. The Lahore portions are a very good tourist video, even, you could say. Just snip that bit and give it to Pakistan tourism industry, it's fine.
Just leave the northern areas and we'll be away.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, my favourite thing during lockdown was seeing tweets from Jemima calling out for, is there a Pakistani rickshaw somewhere in the United Kingdom? Is there I think you were looking for a bus at one point. Yes, but it all kind of paid off. Right, over to you, audience. Please raise your hands if you have a question. Straight up in the middle at the back there. Could we get a microphone over to this gentleman, please? I really like the enthusiasm as well. I'm not waiting for anyone. Straight up.
I'm a journalist, that's why. Hello all, I'm Nimesh from ITV News, and that was a really, really good film. Just really heartwarming, really authentic, and really empowering. That was the thing I really took away from it, because, and I've made some notes, so excuse me a second, but Mamuna's courage and kind of being herself and letting loose when she could, which is not necessarily always easy for women generally. The grandma's ignorance really reminded me of my granddad and the kind of comments his generation would make, that you just go, oh, it's just granddad. You really resonated. Mamuna's gay friend, not something you often see, which I thought was interesting. And then Emma, who was brilliant and always is brilliant, but actually, and the dance scene was flipping brilliant, but then also but then some of the comments she'd make is also kind of some ignorant middle-class white people that you might hear, but they don't realise they're necessarily potentially being offensive. I thought, again, quite representative to a degree anyway. And all of those I cite because I think it felt really authentic as a sort of British Asian experience. And also empowering to have brown characters who are just happy, family-loving people, who aren't playing to stereotypes and tropes. And as you said about representing Pakistan, that's the first time I think I've ever seen Pakistan represented that way. So yeah, maybe that's my ignorance, I don't know. But anyway, sometimes though, that openness and that authenticity isn't necessarily welcomed, particularly by people who might feel, conservative religious values. Is that something you were worried about in the development of these characters and the narrative, in thinking, oh, should we be doing that? How might that go down with certain pockets of our audience?
I'm always. It's a balance. Everything's a balance, and I on both sides really. Are you going to get cancelled by am I going to get cancelled? Am I going to get a fatwa? It's down the middle. You have to try and find the balance between, I mean, I can only thank you for reflecting on that and for judging it authentic and hopefully getting that balance right and being sensitive, but at the same time trying to be truthful. And I have to say, though, in terms of the like party scene in Lahore, one of the biggest laments that I heard from Pakistani friends, I mean, I wasn't really in that scene because my ex-husband was in politics, so we led quite a kind of quiet life. But one of the big laments that I used to hear all the time from Pakistani friends was, why, our scene, we do have this scene too. Like, it does exist. There is this party scene in Lahore, which in some ways can be wilder than any party scene that I've seen in London.
No,
and I think there's an idea.
I like the echo.
I think there's an idea of like that especially for like the Nani Jan character, that back home or might be a more conservative place where, and actually, Pakistan isn't necessarily that place now, and it wasn't even 20 years ago. There was still that scene that was pretty wild and sometimes even quite debauched. So people might not necessarily like it, but I think it's better than for me, it's more authentic to show that than only a place that produces, terrorists and is terrifying and is just full of, suicide bombers, which is a depiction of Pakistan that we have become much more familiar with. I would rather surprise people with a crazy party and the wife who's meant to be this very passive, very submissive, and you think that she's going to be that, and then to be surprised by who she is, which is, than to show something that I think is more predictable, which is, the darker side, which we've seen in awful films like Homeland and Zero Dark 30. A bit of a long-winded answer, sorry.
Another question? Yeah, sure. Go for it. Here you go. You can have a...
Hi, looking gorgeous as always.
We're matching in our Pakistan green.
Yeah, absolutely. I wore it on purpose. First of all, I'd like to echo what the gentleman at the back said. Absolutely authentic. I'm a Lahori lady, born in Pakistan, but still call myself Lahori. But this could be my life, my children's life. I'm born and brought up in England, but Lahori. So thank you for that. I'm going to be telling all my friends, especially non-Pakistani friends, to go and see it. The one thing I really loved, I think Lahore is the best city in the whole world, and I go back numerous times. Have you had any interesting reactions? I'd like to see what people have said to you about your portrayal of Lahore. Has it all been positive? Have people been surprised? Because to me, it was just a Lahore that I recognise at every level. The road, the street, the restaurant you show opposite Badshah Mosque. I've eaten there so many times. It was just like going home for me. So has it all been positive? Have people been surprised?
Well, it hasn't come out in Pakistan yet. It comes out on the 3rd of March, so we'll have to wait here. But honestly, so many people have said they want to book a holiday in Lahore. But I'm talking about even my brother put on Twitter yesterday. He's been there. He went there in his gap year before university, and he said it made me really miss Pakistan and want to go back and experience it again. So from Lahore, from people from Lahore. I mean. Lots of my family and my former in-laws and everyone have seen it, and a lot of my friends from Lahore have seen it now, and they've all felt similarly, thank God.
And what about English people who don't know, who aren't Pakistani? Have they been surprised by how you've portrayed Pakistan?
I think I guess I mean I don't want to speak on behalf of anybody, but. I think there's also that they're also probably listening to the response of people who actually know, like Pakistanis and British Pakistanis who know that culture and probably waiting to see, I don't know. I mean, I can't honestly say how people have viewed it, but people have responded very warmly and kindly to the film, so I'm happy about that.
Questions? Okay. Let's go to this gentleman here, because I looked there first. There you go. Put your hand up really fast and really high, and my attention will go to you straight away. We'll come there straight after. we go.
Hi, I really enjoyed the movie, but where did you get the inspiration for the character Kaz from exactly?
That's a good question. I mean, I have a son who is called Qasim, but he made me call him Kazi. Originally, he was called something else, and I have two sons, Suleiman and Qasim, who are both in their mid-20s. Although, I mean, they actually really, really related to his journey, the journey of Kaz. But it wasn't really that, because, I mean, I started writing this when they were much younger, but I was very relieved that they watched it and it resonated for them. I actually, I ended up interviewing literally hundreds of British Pakistani guys. I would ask friends, I'd be like, okay, if you have any friend who's in this age range, who has decided to have an arranged marriage or has just had an arranged marriage, whatever spectrum of that, but it's pretty much generally always like some form of assisted situation, can I interview them? So I interviewed loads and loads of guys, and you know, they were very generous with their time because it wasn't for public consumption. They were very honest, and that gave me a little bit of insight. But of course, I also, you know, I lived in those 10 years in Lahore. I lived, like, my ex-husband's nephews are all that age, and I lived with them, and I watched them have arranged marriages themselves. It's slightly different, I know, because the British Pakistani experience is obviously going to be very different for Pakistanis growing up in Pakistan. But so yeah, I hope that answers your question.
To the lady there, you were saying there was a lady on that side? There we go.
Hi guys, this is quite loud. Could have been able somehow. Hi guys, this is Tess here, and I'm another Lahori as well. And I want to massively say thank you so much for this film, and you've done an absolutely wonderful job, and you guys should be so proud of it. And I mean, every scene, the way you captured all the, you know, the storyline, the way it moved, the visuals, all of it, and the dance scene, of course, was impeccable. And it really shows that you have so much love for Pakistan and the culture and the dynamics of everyone there. And I just want to really know, like, how rigorously did you stick to the script that you initially had in mind? And what was your favourite part that you really wish that people take away from this film?
Thank you. It's questions. This is for me, yeah. The question for both of us. Actually, I'd like to know what your favourite bit is as well. But I have to say, I do agree that there is something. I really love the Mendi, and I love the fact that it was a real moment to do the dances and the colour and the noise, and I am still slightly resentful. I think it's reflecting that I'm a bit resentful that I never had a Mendi. I got there because we had to do the bride, as we did all the bride side of stuff in England, so it was really boring. And then we went to Pakistan for the Valima. So I only did the Valima bit, which was the Pakistani bits. And so I think I felt a bit cheated. So I was like, right, this is my Mendi. Although it was like, again, right, it was during COVID and the situation was pretty bleak outside. So I think we all felt quite lucky to be amidst all that kind of colour and fabulousness. Well, you know, certainly most people weren't. So I love that. What else? First of all, can I just say, I think that Sajal is the most talented, brilliant actress. I think that I was blown away by her from the very first moment. She did a Zoom audition with us, and she'd already taped a scene and sent us. And I remember Eric Fellner, the producer, saying, the size of the tear that came down her face.
It's bigger than her face.
And I think she's spectacularly talented. And I think, sorry, I'm slightly digressing, but I just wanted to make a particular point that I think is important, is that I often have seen, even in some films that I really love, which have touched on the subject of arranged marriage, normally, it's quite common for the arranged marriage candidate to be suboptimal. So you know, they're always the slightly dud choice, and then the like, you know, and so it was really important that the character that he is set up with is every bit as fabulous and sensational and beautiful and nuanced and interesting as Lily James. And I think that we got that with Sajal, because Lily James is also a brilliant actress and is wonderful, but I think Sajal is more than her match. So,
Can I say something? Thank you. Thank you so much, Naima. And thank you, everyone. I think it's the success of everybody, everyone. But I just love the fact that this is the very first film which highlight Pakistan and Pakistani culture in a very, very right manner. You know, you have showed Pakistan brighter, joyful, you know, and I mean beyond other industry norms of Pakistani being terrorists. So thank you so much for that. And the film is releasing in Pakistan on the 3rd, I guess.
Very much.
You better be there. Because Pakistan is actually waiting for you. Pakistan loves you and we want you to be there. Okay. And I think with Memuna, I just think that I love the fact that that girl is really, really strong. And she is the face of thousands of South Asian girls. You know, she's representing thousands of Pakistani and South Asian girls. And I'm so happy that the message that she is going to give is that the courage and the confidence that she's giving to everyone, so many girls and women I know personally. So I'm really happy and I'm really proud to be part of this film. I may not have so many scenes in the film, but Memuna is saying so much.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Right, I think we've got time for about 2 more questions. I think so. Lady here in the same row, in the middle there.
Hi, my name is Urus. I'm actually from Karachi.
Oh no, come on, the room's full of Lahoris. What are you doing? Get out of here.
Really enjoyed the movie. It was really refreshing to see Pakistan in this light. And also, Sajal, I absolutely love how you've been rocking this Eastern wear throughout the functions. Really love it. I was just surprised, being a doctor myself, how Kaz was getting so many leaves. We never do. I know you said that none of the characters are specifically inspired by somebody, but I'm sure you must have met a lot of Nani Jans during your time in Pakistan.
Khala.
So, how's that experience, and how did you find dealing with it? And yeah,
Nani Jan is it's probably the closest to a real life character who I actually became really fond of. So my ex-husband's Khala, who she lived in Zaman Park behind the house that we lived in, and everyone had to go and visit her every day for tea. And I remember she would only speak in Urdu even when I first arrived. And someone turned to me a little embarrassed. She was, and said, Khala was very shocked when the news broke about our marriage. And this was about 6 months later, and she went, all she said in Urdu was, "Who says I'm over the shock?" But slowly, I cracked her, and we became close.
Gentleman at the back who kept his hand up throughout the whole answer, and for that alone, the microphone is coming towards you. Make the question good. Come on.
Hi everyone. Jemima, the day your announcement came that you was going to marry Imran Khan, your brother was in my restaurant and he bought a meal for the whole lot. He paid for the whole restaurant.
Which brother? We've got a lot of siblings.
The one who was in Bristol University.
Name and shame.
Bristol. So I'm from Bristol, so I'm not from Lahore, sorry. My questions is, the film was brilliant. A lot of people have already said a lot of things. One of the points where I think arranged marriage, meeting the spouse on the wedding day, that was me 30 years ago. So I met my wife on my wedding day, here we are 30 years later. So it did work. My question is, wonderful you thinking about this and whatever made you think about this film. Is there anything else to come after this?
Part 2, Maimoona and Kaz.
Especially Maimoona's part, please. Part 2 come
Only
on.
if Sajal agrees to be in it.
And will it be possible to see you for a couple of minutes after, please? All the way from Bristol.
Yes, of course. We'll be
And
there.
your son had a lot of food from our takeaways as well while you were studying there, Salman.
My son, oh my goodness, 2 sons were at Bristol. God, I hope they behaved themselves.
This is turning into a family reunion right here. Right, one final question. Lady there, no, behind you, I'm afraid. You put your hand up really late, I'm afraid. There you go. This lady here.
Can I just say it was a lovely film. I really, really enjoyed it. I think for me it's reflected how much, what I've taken away from it is how much passion Jemima has for a culture and a country she probably tried to embrace. So that was actually, it came through really well, and I was quite touched by that. I'm not Pakistani, by the way.
You're more than welcome, it's fine.
But what came to my mind was, in all that time, so you said it took you about 12 years to write it, did you ever come stuck in writing it and think, God, this is really difficult, or I can't actually finish this off, or how many times did the storyline change?
Many, many times. I genuinely found it quite a hard thing to do, write a script, and I had, you know, I had my day job. I have a production company, and I produce documentaries, often similar kind of themes. Like the last documentary that I made was about. I don't know if you. I guess you guys might have all watched the Adnan Said or listened to the podcast, and he's coming out of jail on episode 5 as we're putting out this year. And that was based on the evidence. Anyway, I'm slightly digressing. But the point is, I had a day job, and so I was doing this in my kind of extra time. And there were so many times where I just thought, oh, this is too hard. I don't think I'm ever going to get this done. And, you know, there's so many hoops you have to jump through. And every time somebody else is attacked of them, whether it's, whether it's a production company like Working Title, or then a director, or then when cast comes, each time you write a draft for that person. So I've written so many different versions. I mean, if you said to me, did you ever think of of making Zoe a man? I'd be like, yep, done it. I've done every iteration. And
Was there ever a version where Maimoona and Kaz end up together?
Ooh, that's a really naughty question.
But
because
by the way, they looked really good together.
They did. And by the way, how great is Shazad Latif? I mean, I know he's not here, but he is. I mean, I think he's a star. I think he's a proper movie star, and I think beyond, he's a brilliant actor, but I think there's another level, and I think he's a movie star, and I really hope that that's what this leads to, because I think he deserves it, and he's an incredibly nice person as well, isn't he?
It would have been terrible if she said no just then.
Yes, I know.
He really helped me. I mean,
yeah,
he really helped me, and I hope that it leads him and me to the sequel of What's Love Got to Do with It. Thank you very much.
Well, the truth is, I did think about that. I did think about it, and yeah, I mean, and also, what is a happy ending? Like, what does that actually look like? And should more, not so much about even Maimoona and Kaz, also do Zoe and Kaz end up together? Do we see that? And I think my ambivalence around that is probably reflected in her saying, shall we watch a TV series together, rather than, anything more permanent, because I'm not sure they'll make it. I'm not sure. Maybe he was better suited to Maimoona. Maybe, who knows? Part 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure having you here. I'm sorry if I wasn't able to give your questions to Sajid and Jemima, but a big round of applause for Jemima Khan and Sajid Ali. Tell your family, tell your friends, if you enjoyed the film, then spread the word. It's out in UK cinemas on the 24th of February. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening.